Dr. Sizo Nkala from the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg joins us now to further unpack the developments in the DRC. Doctor, great to have you with us. A very good afternoon to you. Firstly, I'm sure you watched the clip preceding our interview. What do you make of these latest and fresh allegations by the Rwandan government of a plot by the DRC to attack them?
Well, I think that's what President Kagame has always argued, that the DRC government has a plan to attack and overthrow the Rwandan government. That's why it is supporting the democratic forces for the liberation of Rwanda, which is made up of people who were implicated in the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. So that's an argument that President Kagame has consistently made, and it's not helped by the fact that during his presidential campaign in 2023, the DRC president Felix Tshisekedi promised to ask the DRC parliament for authority to march on Rwanda because of what it is doing in the eastern DRC. So it's not surprising. I don't think so. It's an argument that he's made in the past, but I think it's a justification. He's looking for ways to justify Rwanda's intervention in the DRC.
And I would call it posturing in a way there, Doctor. But I mean, what is troubling for me also is the fact that depending on who you believe, on which side you seem to fall towards, the fact is there are deeper issues leading to this over 3 decades long conflict, but nobody's actually willing to outwardly come out and say their piece, meaning a viable solution is far from being found.
I think we are really far from a viable solution to this conflict, especially seeing that the 2 recent processes, the peace processes, that the Rwanda process that was mandated by the AU and led by Angola, and then the other Nairobi process under the East African community, which were meant to bring DRC and Rwanda on a negotiating table so that they can at least have a dialogue. Both of those processes collapsed. DRC and Rwanda were trading blame with each other for the failure of those processes. And then just a few days ago, the Rwandan president Paul Kagame cast aspersions on the legitimacy of the DRC president Felix Tshisekedi, and questioned the legitimacy of his election as president of DRC. So there is a mutual personal dislike amongst or between the DRC and Rwandan leaders themselves. So having them sit down and having a dialogue to resolve this conflict, I think we are far from that.
Absolutely, Doctor. I mean, this situation is fast also causing a lot of division, especially among South Africans now who feel that our army should be recalled and that initially they really should not be in the DRC, and that South Africa can assist in other ways towards finding peace in that region. What do you say to these ascensions?
Well, I think South Africa is right to be in the DRC. First and foremost, it did not go there on its own. It's not a unilateral initiative by the South African government. They did so under the auspices of the SADC mission in the DRC. And whatever happens in the DRC, we have South African companies operating in the DRC. So whatever happens in the DRC in terms of the conflict that's taking place now will affect South Africa's economy as well. So I think South Africa has got a duty and an obligation to try and address and resolve conflicts where they abound within, of course, their means, within their capacity. So it's important to make sure that if soldiers are sent such situations as the DRC. They are sent with enough equipment and enough support to carry out what they are there for.
Absolutely, Doctor. Now, reports indicate that even last year, though, the South African National Defence Force DRC mission was actually warned of potential failure as well as the high cost of such deployments. Yet these warnings were apparently dismissed, and the latest reports now suggest that South African soldiers are now even prisoners of their Rwandan enemies. The Minister and Deputy Minister of Defence in the country during their press briefing this week had two completely different versions as to what exactly led to the deaths of the 13 that were killed. This is actually quite embarrassing.
Yeah, it's really embarrassing because if you have the two people who control the Ministry of Defense issuing saying two different things, I think it spells trouble in the Defense Department itself, which is supposed to take care of the South African soldiers in the DRC. So now we do not know which is which, who is telling the truth and who is not telling the truth. If the minister says the mission in the DRC is well taken care of and adequately equipped and funded, but on the other hand, the deputy minister is saying a different thing. I think it's unfortunate because we do not know at the end of the day what is really the state of affairs and who is telling the truth amongst them.
Absolutely. High-level discussions need to be held before that deployment. Doctor, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. That is Dr. Sizo Nkala, the research fellow at University of Johannesburg, also weighing in on the current developments in the DRC.